Alright, so these days I have been trying to learn how to paint better mountains because last time that I did some, they didn't look very well. So I'm gonna show you how I study and the main tricks that I learned in case this can be useful for you. This is the first picture that I studied, and the first thing that I learned is that mountains don't just look like this, but they all have like a nipple or something like that, as you can see in the image over here. So something to keep in mind. Now, when I look at this picture, the first thing that I tried to do was understanding the 3D of a mountain, something that I always feel is quite complex because it has a lot of different volumes going in different directions. And basically, this is what I understood. Let's start here. At the end of the day, what I see is that a mountain is a triangle like this, and usually the viewer is here, right? So you are seeing the side of the mountain. You can see that here more or less. And well, I use some lines to understand the plane, so in which direction what each plane going. And in order to simplify how to draw a mountain, and that later you can do it from imagination instead of having to always find some reference, this is what I got. You do your triangle with its nipple and whatever. Then you throw a few lines like this in whatever direction you want. And this will be your planes. Something like this, always. And this will give you the kind of lights and shadows that you see in this other mountain. Shadow here, light in here, and so on. So it's something very easy to remember to do this in order to get a mountain that is realistic. And if you want to make it more complicated, the way that it will go down is that you can always divide it in smaller pieces. Like, for example, remember these key vertical lines? While you are going down, they can get divided a little bit like this, as if they were veins or something like that. And let's imagine that we do something like this. The same around here, right? Maybe we have a line like this and another one like this. And then how will the planes work? The same. Down and up, down and up, down and up, down and up, down and up. In this case, it will be more marked, right? Depending on how big you want to make these changes. But yeah, it will look something like this. And in here, it could be, yeah, something like this. That then will connect like that. So that's a little bit the idea. And then, of course, depending on the light that you're getting, I'm gonna put it, for example, the light is coming from here, just like in the reference. This part will get light. This part will get light. Because the lines are looking like this, right? So a light that is coming from this side will hit more or less around here. In here, this will probably also get a lot of light, and maybe it will only lose a little bit in the middle, but not a lot. So that will be a little bit the way that it will look like. These lines of planes make it very, very easy to understand where you want to put the light of what is going on. And then, of course, depending on how much we are seeing from the other side, it will get more light in the top or not. I mean, like in the reference, this will be the side that will get more light if the light is coming from here, and the one that is on the other side will only receive light depending on the angle. So this will be the main structure that I will follow in order to paint a mountain. Later I was also trying to imagine a case that will be even more far away, and this is the idea that I came up with. This could be the way that a line of mountains could look like, right? And this will be the end of the mountain. I think it is kind of realistic, which then will create these lines over here, over here, over here. That will give you the volumes that you want to follow later. Beyond that, I also study the shapes of the lights and shadows, which I always find very useful. You can see here that I paint them completely opaque, so I could see easier the shape that they have. And I always do the same. I first start tracing the same way that I also trace the plain lines that I was showing you before. And after I have traced it, I made a second version where I am not tracing it, so I remember it better, and so I can simplify it in a way that later on I can remember. For example, in this case, I tried to make simplified shapes of what I was seeing here in here. And what I got is, for example, that these are some sort of rhombus or diamonds, however you want to call it. Then I thought, okay, this is a fish. This is a knife. This kind of shape where one side is flat and the other has like several pointy things, I tend to call it a knife. It's easier to remember. Then a fat butcher knife, because why not? And then a fat fish, like a whale or something. And this is something very silly, but it helps me remember some of the shapes that you can see in here. Now, beyond that, I also want to give you a few other tricks around color. So I check another reference. Here it is. And I analyze which colors do we have in the light and in the shadow in each of these planes. We can easily see that there is a plane here, right? Another one here, 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 and the one in the background. Okay, and this is what I got. These are the light and shadows of the foreground. Then this one. And then I think I took this one and this one directly. Now, what is interesting here? I always used to paint these mountains like a desaturated green, like something like this. And my nature will never look good. It will look just off. I wouldn't know why, but it wouldn't look realistic. And what I realized when I check these colors, I'm gonna show you, is that most of the lights are gonna be here in the more or less the yellow area, right? Over here. And the shadows are gonna be directly in here, in the blue. So this is what I never understood. But there is barely nothing in this green area over here. At least when we are talking about this kind of landscape, far away mountains and so on. So let me show you. This is the light. It is almost in the orange. This is the light. It's still here in the yellows. Now I am in the limit where the green starts. And the next light, boom, is directly in the blues, in a very desaturated blue. That will be the light that you can see, for example, let me make it clear. That will be the kind of light that you can see, for example, in this little triangle of light. We are moving from here, and every time that I move towards here, I think it gets a bit more desaturated because we are going farther away, right? In the picture, to, boom, moving here directly. And the shadows are directly, well, this one is pink because whatever, I guess it is very black. But you can see that we are directly in the blues. For whatever reason, the farther away that we go, we are moving from here to here. I'm not sure why, but this is what is going on. And yeah, you can see no greens at all. So keep this in mind because maybe this simple change can make your drawings much more realistic. And the other thing that I wanted to show you in this reference, the way that I study each reference is always different. What I do is that I always look at the reference and think what is the most interesting thing for me here, and I only study that. I don't study everything. In this case, I didn't focus in the shadows and lights. I wasn't so interested. I look at the colors. I look a little bit at the composition, so I could remember how to do something like this. And for whatever reason, I was really interested in the way that this valley, is working, because I never know how to create these little details that we see in here. And I simply traced it. And by the way, sorry about the other doodling around here, but many times when I am bored with an study, I simply start doodling around as a way of having a break. But anyway, I try to doodle a little bit the details. And this is the only other interesting thing that I got. First of all, that is very typical to put lines of trees or bushes in a line. Like in here, you see all of this is really creating a line all together, right? Or in here, like there is a very clear straight line. And this happens a lot where you have a mountain like this, and suddenly in here there is a group of trees like a line, and here another group of trees in a line. So something that you can really use to to highlight more the shapes that you are creating. And in this case, these lines are clearly very useful to indicate what is the inclination of the valley. So if the valley is going like this, they are just creating a bunch of lines with these little bosses, and that's really creating a very good image. And as for the shapes, I think that this is a typical case of a knife, right? A straight line and then da 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 da. That's it. So nothing really to put a lot of effort on. And the second thing that I realized, because I always try to find things to remind me of the kind of shapes that I can see in each place. And something that I keep seeing on mountains and especially on rocks is this kind of structure. So for example, I can see it here, in here as well, in here as well, in here as well. And well, this image doesn't have a lot of resolution, but you could see it here some on the rocks and so on. So I try to remember this one as the legs of a mosquito. I don't know if this will be helpful to you, but if it is, keep it in mind, right? Because many times you have a mountain, I do the nipple, and we don't know exactly how to paint it or what to do with it. Well, if you start throwing things like that, it might look good. And in fact, if we come back to the 3D structure that I was showing you in the previous reference, where there were like arteries like this, in fact, that resembles a lot this type of shape, right? So keep it in mind. It could help you to know what to do next time that you are painting one of these. And these are all the advices that I have for you for the moment. As soon as I do a new painting or illustration with mountains, I will upload it so you can see also what are my results after I apply all of these learnings. But yeah, this is all. Let me know if you have any tricks of your own, and thank you very much.